The 57th governor of the great state of Louisiana is here. We've got a lot to talk about. Roll it, Kirk. Straight from St. Martinville, Louisiana, the governor of the state of Louisiana, Jeff Landry, is here for the first time on the show. A lot going on, 10 months of busyness. And before we get into the business of Louisiana, man, I think we got to offer some thoughts to our neighbors in Florida. We've been there. This storm blew through there and caused a bunch of damage. Yeah, and look, I'm just thankful that it wasn't as bad as it could have been. Yeah. I mean, you know, at one point in time, they were looking at a pretty intensive storm. We saw some. We saw the storm go down just a little bit, and I think that has helped, but certainly they still have a lot of destruction there. They had a lot of destruction from the last storm. Yeah. We have folks in South Carolina, North Carolina, Tennessee, and Georgia, all still trying to recover from Hurricane Elaine, and Louisiana's doing its part. Yeah. We've been the recipient of those states' charity when we've been ravaged by storms, and we're trying to reciprocate that today. So we certainly do offer our prayers and our help to them. I love that, and we'll come back in the last segment, talk a little bit about hurricane prep. We've got, what, 6 weeks or so left in the season, and can't wait to get to the end of November. Is it 6? Yeah, I know, right? Okay. All right, let's talk about it. Special session is a special happening. Yes. Okay, and this is going to be specific to tax reform. Specific to tax reform. Look, we made promises, and we heard the people of the state loud and clear last year when we went around the state, and they wanted to do something about public safety and crime and education and economy, right? Because we all know that if we want to take people from dependence to independence, the best way to do that is to have work out there, for people to have an opportunity to go and employ their labor and make money, right? Isn't that what it's all about? Yeah. And we know from watching our states around us that those states have done better economically, but done better in stopping outward migration and actually getting inward migration. And we want Louisiana to be part of a new industrial South, and this tax reform package does that. There's a lot in there. You're lowering the corporate tax rate from 7.5% to 3.5%. And there's some savings for seniors in terms of what they can deduct. Let's talk about the business side of this. That's been one thing that I've heard for years, that it's difficult. People have said it's difficult to do business here because of our tax code and how things work. How does lowering the tax code or tax rate help us get more revenues into the coffers? That is a great question. Let's start from the beginning. Number one, this tax package, the most important thing to remember is it will place more money in the pockets of every man and woman that works in Louisiana. That's extremely important. Number two, it doubles the deduction for seniors, which, again, we want to take care of our seniors. We want to attract seniors to the state. We lower, as you said, the corporate income tax from 7.5% to 4.5%. We lower the personal income tax to a flat 3%. Yeah. We virtually eliminate the bottom bracket. That will make us the lowest personal income tax rate in the country of those states that have an income tax, and put us on a path to eventually eliminate those that tax, the income tax, personal income tax. We eliminate the corporate franchise tax. We do things at the local level to help our locals raise more revenue in a way that doesn't stifle business. So we give them an option to eliminate the inventory tax. We align our state and local sales tax basis, so we remove a bunch of the exemptions. All of these things we have done in an effort to look at what other states have done to attract business there. The Tax Foundation says that this package takes us from the bottom 10 to the top 10. We also place in there, in a constitutional amendment, a permanent pay raise for teachers. And so again, this package has a little bit for everyone. Yeah. It requires some people to give some things up. Yeah. Everybody gives a little, but we get a lot. You know, that's kind of the big thing. And then I see that there's a tax in the package on streaming. Yeah, digital goods and services. Look, here's the thing. We go from taxing your labor. I mean, let me tell you something. The most offensive thing we have out there is the fact that the government can go out there and tax our labor. Yeah. Our labor is given to us by God, right? Yeah. It's what you. The fact that the government can go and tax that should be absurd and offensive to anyone. So in order to eliminate the income tax, we know that we have to have some stability in raising revenue to provide the services that the people in Louisiana require their government to do. public safety, infrastructure, healthcare, the vital services that we've been accustomed to and need. To do that, all the other states, we've got 217 exemptions to our sales tax, more than any other state in the entire country. Right. So what we did was we combed through those and we looked for those under which other states were taxing, and that were things that were chosen, right? A choice, not a necessity. Right. And streaming digital services is something that absolutely has been taxed in the sales tax brackets of other states around us as well. I want to,
we're going to take a quick commercial break and come back and talk about working this through the legislature, your caucus of support there. It's a very conservative legislature. Also talk about public safety. So we got the governor for the whole show. Back with him in just a moment. Back with Governor Landry. We went to break talking about this tax reform package that he's pretty excited about. So the question becomes now, getting it through the legislature, how do you do that?
Look, I think the process that we're using, I feel is a good one. We gave every legislator the bill. We've met with the different caucuses. We continue to meet with individual legislators that have some concerns, and we challenge them. We said, look, we want you to look at it, tell us if we're wrong, if you think we made a mistake, if what we're seeing is not what we believe is going to ultimately be the end, and if you can make it better. And we've got good response. I think we got great response. And I think that this is a package under which it doesn't divide the legislature. I think that there is enough for everyone in this package who wants to see Louisiana grow.
What's the biggest criticism? What's the biggest pushback you've heard?
Well, I mean, I think you get on one side, I think there's some criticism on the renewal or making permanent the 0.45 on the right, and on the left, the question is whether or not we're relying too hard on what they term is regressive taxation. And so we're talking to everyone on both ends and saying, look, this is a way to stabilize our revenue. When you look at other states around us, okay, this is the tax structure that they've used to beat us, right? And so it's not a game, it's not an experimental game plan. This is a proven game plan. All we have to do is implement it and execute it. And we know we've got better people. We know the greatest natural resources are people here in Louisiana. That's right. And we can win.
So Commissioner Barra is going to be your general leading this thing through the process?
I would say that Richard Nelson, Secretary Richard Nelson, and Susan Bourgeois, the LED secretary, both of those are extremely important, although Taylor is an extremely important component about this, because remember, he was the Speaker of the House, through the first term 8 years ago, where we had a fiscal cliff, and the 0.45 was actually put on there. But again, I think that when people take a look at this holistically, again, it is a package for Louisiana. It's not a special interest package. It's a package for the average man and woman out there.
So how is the economy across the state of Louisiana? We've got these pockets of regions, whether you have ag or petrochem or whatever. How is the state doing right now?
Look, I mean, we're doing okay, but we can do so much better. We've got such an opportunity to capitalize on what I call a new industrial South, and we see that manufacturing is being onshored now, being brought back domestically. We have a great opportunity to capitalize on that. We got two big economic projects that we've been working on throughout all of this year that we hope to announce at the end of this year, which I think would be great. They're in different parts completely different parts of the state, so it's not like, oh, it's just this area. I think one of them is going to basically revolutionize the economy of Central and North Louisiana, which I think is going to be good.
You're not going to give us a little hint about what that is?
No, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to tease you.
Kate, you're going to let him come in here and
it's the only way to get invited back, right? So look, we'll be back. I tell you one thing, we passed that tax package, and those particular projects only become amplified, like it becomes greater. And so what we want is a welcome mat on Louisiana's doorstep.
Well, how do you protect higher ed in the process of reforming? Because it seems often when we talk about revamping our economic system that higher ed takes it in the teeth. So how do you make certain that doesn't happen again?
Well, actually, we stabilize that, and that's what the voters are going to get an opportunity to do. And when we're going to rewrite Article 7 of the Constitution, we're going to give the legislature more flexibility in budgeting and handling the finances of the state. Those are the things that have placed higher ed, and not only higher ed, but healthcare on the chopping block. Every time we have these fits and starts, the governor would be sitting right here talking about, oh, we're going to have drastic cuts to healthcare, higher ed. Everybody would be fighting. Nobody's getting along. Yeah. This stabilizes that. This gives us an opportunity to continue to invest in our deferred maintenance in the universities. You know, we just put $70 million in deferred maintenance so we can take care of the infrastructure on those universities. We put $300 million in infrastructure in our roads and bridges. We need a lot more.
Yeah. And especially in the capital region.
Especially everywhere in Louisiana. But you're right. But you are absolutely right. Believe you me, I got to move around in Louisiana. I mean, in Baton Rouge too.
Yeah. We're going to take a quick break and come back, and I want to talk with you about public safety. When you came in, you guys invested a lot in the area of New Orleans, and they've seen some positive return on that investment, but it's needed in other parts of the state too. We'll talk about that. Back with Governor Landry. Here's where you can catch the show, streaming every Friday, on air Friday night at 7 o'clock, replaying at 3 p.m. Just last week, Louisiana State Police graduated more than 50 new members of this very prestigious organization. I actually had a chance to have lunch with the colonel on Monday. First of all, Governor, he's very intense. Second of all, if you go visit with him, you have to see the facility, and we probably spent as much time walking around looking at everything, including that gym that's in there, by the way.
Yeah, great gym.
It's a great gym. So how do you feel about this? This is really good in a time that law enforcement agencies are really struggling to bring more people in. To graduate that many has to make you proud.
It does, it does. And I think that many of the bills that we passed during the crime session, if people remember, I mean, it was only like 6 months ago that we had a crime session, or 7 months ago. And many of those bills, I think, helped to further increase our recruiting ability in law enforcement. We have seen a lot of positive effects from some of that legislation. We've still got a lot to do. We talk about the successes that we've had down in New Orleans. We want to replicate those successes and things that we've learned from doing down there into other areas of the state as well. Baton Rouge in particular, Shreveport in particular. We are concentrating on a very rural area right now that has a real problem. I'll just say that, and then hopefully maybe in a week or so we'll be able to report on that. You better see that, and you better report and show the people that we're trying to expand that public safety sector to ensure that we make all of Louisiana safe.
What is the biggest thing you learned from the work in New Orleans?
Look, I think that the thing that not just surprised me, but I thought was there, and was proven, is that everybody wants safety. Nobody wants to live in a crime-ridden neighborhood, and that I think the biggest thing that we did was we didn't concentrate on the French Quarter. We concentrated on the city, because people in the poorer areas deserve as much public safety as the tourists that come to Louisiana. And so what we did was we made public safety in New Orleans a priority rather than public safety in, say, the CBD or the French Quarter.
Well, I mean, that's the thing. I was going to say that earlier. Every person who lives here deserves to be able to live in a safe neighborhood. Children deserve the opportunity to play outside in their front yards, or be able to ride their bikes. But you and I know that that's not a reality for a lot of neighborhoods here.
No.
So how do you get everybody, and look, and we're going to talk about in the last segment about investment. You and your administration supported the Inspiration Center. So I do believe in investment and mentorship and academics and all of those things. But enforcement is important too, man. And the system now, the way it has been, I believe have kept people both on the streets who shouldn't be on the streets, and it has hamstrung a lot of what the law enforcement infrastructure can do. How do we lead away from that, where we get the bad actors off?
Well, look, Clay, I can tell. I know how you were raised. I could just guess, right? And it's from parents who enforced their rules. This is a set of rules. You break the rules, there's a consequence. Look, I've always said that we want to make sure that there are good people who make bad choices, and we want them to have a second chance. But there's some bad people out there. And when those bad people continuously break our laws, then we have to take them out of society, because you're not doing any good to the good people out there who want to live in particular peace. And so what we've seen is that as we have stepped up enforcement, as we have stepped on prosecutions, as we put in place truth in sentencing, and people realize that we are going to hold them accountable, the conduct changes.
You've been tougher on juveniles who continually break the law, and you came under some criticism for that. I'm not going to lie, I took a half move back when I saw some of it in the beginning. Talk about your philosophy about why you need to do this?
Well, look, here's the problem. We've got great young men and women. We've got great kids in this state.
Yep.
If we allow the bad apples to, they will spoil the whole bunch. And I don't believe in that. And I believe that there should be consequences to actions that you have. Everyone, look, at the end of the day, everyone knows right and wrong. We want to be able to take those bad actors off, and we want to backfill it with things like we're going to talk about in the second section. Right now, I've said that. I've met with pastors and faith-based organizations around the state and said that consistently, is that, look, we can hold a line. We can take the bad folks off the street, but it is really up to the community and the neighborhood to fix it permanently, right? You can't legislate a man's heart or a woman's heart, right? Can't do that.
Yeah, it's a top priority around here, especially because you've seen, because the mansion is here, what we've been dealing with crime, and look, we got to get it under control. We got one more segment with the governor. We'll talk a little bit about plans for the rest of hurricane season, and then the Inspiration Center. We'll do that next. And here is something you need to know. The C-Suite podcast drops online every Monday, WAFB.com. Our last guest was current BRPD Chief T.J. Morris. Our next guest is the person before him, Murphy Paul. That's next week. One final segment with the governor. Got a chance to stretch our legs a little bit. So hurricane season, as we talked about, we do still have 6 weeks left. You were trying to put some good optimism that we're not going to have
this
another.
Is it. No more. No more. No more.
Man, I'm hoping not. Game planning for the rest of hurricane season, what is it?
Look, I think that after the brush we had with Hurricane Francine, it gave us a lot of we got a good look at the things that we need to do better at, and how all of the different new cabinet secretaries operate with each other during a natural disaster. We have been working since that time to continue to improve our readiness. And look, I tell you right now, I feel real good about the team that we've got. They do a great job. You talked about Colonel Hodges earlier, General Freelou. You know, General Freelou, the Adjutant General of the National Guard, and Rob Hodges, and we all served in the National Guard together. Just a great group of guys that are really committed to take care of the state. So I'm not worried, because we're not going to have any more hurricanes this year.
All right, listen,
right?
Man, I'm with you.
I've got a lot of faith on that.
You got to, because I was watching this week what was happening in Florida, and I could only think, man, I know their pain. You know what that feels like when the storm is imminent, then when it's over you, and then when it's over, you almost hold your breath before you walk out to see what's left behind.
And of course, we also know, really, in Louisiana more than anywhere else, what it feels like to go through a disaster, come out, start cleaning up the yard, only to say, oh my God, all of the trash that I picked up is getting ready to get blown away again, because here comes another storm. So, look, again, I am thankful that the storm that impacted Florida was not as bad as it could have been. We are still committed to helping those folks there and the folks in North Carolina. Oh, my, I'm telling you, it's terrible.
That other storm just sat over them, man. Just so.
Yeah.
Anyway, prayers to all of the people who are dealing with that, and you know.
And prayers for no more hurricanes this
I'm with you. Everybody heard you, man. You're selling it. I'm buying it too. You know, a year ago, I came to see you before the election at your office in Lafayette. And we got a chance to sit, and I talked about this project that we were going to do here in Baton Rouge called the Inspiration Center. And we hadn't met, and we had a chance to really sit and visit for about an hour. Told them about the building. So this is a really important investment in a very disinvested part of Baton Rouge. The money was initially put in by Governor Edwards and passed by the legislature, but we had to go back because of a formality with one of our partners. And your administration and the legislature supported it again. In my opinion, I think this is probably the most impactful investment in this part of our community that has ever been. And I wanted to formally thank you for that, because you didn't have to do it. And you did, and Edwin made it easy for us. I was talking with him almost every week about the process, and so we appreciate. Here is an image, that's a picture, Governor, of the Inspiration Center, one of the renderings, that will house Boys and Girls Clubs of Metro Louisiana. Angel Nelson is here. Come on in the shot, Angel. Angel and her team will move in and staff the building, and there's the indoor gym right there, Governor, that we'll have there. So as soon as the construction's done, you got to come and, well, you'll be at the ribbon cutting, right?
Yeah, oh yeah, I loved it. Oh my God, yeah.
Let's talk about that kind of investment and why it was important for you to support it?
Well, look, again, I think that we talked about public safety and we talked about law enforcement and we concentrate on getting bad guys off the street, but how about if we don't have any bad guys?
Right.
Right? I mean, and a way to do that is to give kids an opportunity to do things, to have some opportunity, to understand that there's a great life out there in being a servant leader, right? Just being a part of the community and just integrating yourself into that. Look, I can remember that coming from a small town where we played football. I remember during the summer, we had a JTPA program in which kids would cut grass and paint, and they'd get paid. And they'd work us so hard in that heat, and then we go to football practice, and you were so tired, you couldn't get in trouble, right? Even if you wanted, you're like, you're so tired. You're just like, look, where is my pillow?
JTPA sent more kids to college and training. It's like, I'm not working this hard. I got to go somewhere where I'm inside.
Well, you know, Clay, and those are the things that we should be looking at bringing back, because those are the things that work. Because you know what it did? It taught kids work ethic. It taught them that there is hard work. And you're right. It taught them that, man, cutting grass in 98-degree heat is not fun, right? And so, again, these are the kind of opportunities that we have to invest in, because, again, when we go out there and we do proper law enforcement, when we take bad people off the streets, the objective is to make sure that there's not a backfill.
Right.
Because if you have that void, the cycle continues to repeat itself.
Right. I mean, and it's been important. Got about a minute left. What is something about Governor Jeff Landry that you want people to know that they may not know?
Look, I think that for a long time, people didn't understand the appreciation and love I have for the state and for its people. I just hate to see people in a state so blessed as Louisiana not be able to achieve all of the great things that they got. And that's what we want this state to be. And so that's the things that we're working hard for.
Biggest goal for 2025?
The biggest goal for 2025, increasing the amount of money that people make in this state and job opportunities.
You couldn't top a cake better. So, Governor, we appreciate you being on the show. It's not the last time, right?
No, absolutely not. I'm coming back.
We'll have him back. Next week, we're going to talk about where we are in education in the Capital Region, and I'll introduce you to a really dynamic person who's serving right here in Baton Rouge. You guys have a fantastic weekend. Go Jags, go Tigers, and I guess go Raging Cajuns, too.
Oh,
See y'all next week.